Hello to all Cenimaster lovers. Hope you enjoy watching. Let's get started. The second part begins with Sarah and Alan are running some tests, and the virus grows more and more without them noticing. Alan uses a fire extinguisher to control it a bit and thinks that since the cold affected the virus, it might also affect the infected people. He goes to talk to Dr. Victor, who is in charge of the cooling equipment, and starts testing it on the rats. He puts a rat in a very cold liquid and does the same thing with Peter, hoping he might get better. At first, it looks like he's drowning, but after a few seconds, he calms down and falls asleep. We return to Sergei, who, as soon as he is alone, tries to free himself quickly. He takes a knife and goes out to check the road, shocked to discover that Anna is Daniel's friend. He attacks him to kill him until Anna stops him and threatens him with her gun. Sergei learns from them that Daniel is not the original Daniel, but that this man is named Tabuk, Anna's brother, who had a twin brother who disappeared when they were young. Since then, they have been trying to find out where their brother went. Inanna pressures him to tell her who the Daniel he was talking about is, and when he tells her, she decides to go with him to the base. A few days later, planes arrive with the logo of a company called Ilaria. Some soldiers enter the base, and Constance introduces herself to them, saying she is the director of special operations for the company. She explains to Alan that she is here to help them, slaps Hiroshi, and blames him for failing his mission. She insists on searching for Julia to get rid of her, and tells him that as soon as they find the cure, she will kill everyone present so that there are no witnesses against the company. At the same time, Alan talks to Sarah, telling her he doesn't trust Constance at all and feels she has another agenda. He asks her to keep it a secret between them if they find a cure. Afterwards, Constance looks through all the pictures of Julia that Hiroshi has, pressures him until he tells her where he hid her, then removes the lenses she's wearing, revealing her silver eyes. Hiroshi leaves through the secret passage again to help Julia. Sergei and Anna arrive at the base together, are received by the guards and Daniel. Anna runs to Daniel as soon as she sees him and explains that he is her brother and has been missing for a long time. When he doesn't believe her, she shows him pictures of his twin brother. Sergei confirms that he saw him himself and that she's telling the truth. Sergei finally takes him to the isolation room. Constance argues with Sergei and blames him for failing at everything required of him and for killing Doreen, who was the only one who could find a cure for the disease. We learn that the company funds everything being done in this lab. Constance pays Sergei a lot of money for working with them, and to gain Alan's trust, she sends Sergei to isolation herself and deals with him strictly in front of them. At this time, on the second level, an infected woman enters Julia's room. As soon as she gets close and sees Julia's eyes, she becomes very frightened and quickly runs away. Hiroshi is shocked when he arrives and sees the color of her eyes. He tries to treat her wound while she is crying and convinces her to leave the room and escape to another place because someone is coming to kill her. Alan, Constance, and some soldiers arrive at the second level and head towards the infected. Chaos breaks out due to the large number of infected. The soldiers can't handle them, so Constance is forced to retreat with them. She is surprised that so many soldiers have died. They hide behind the gate for safety. Alan refuses to leave without taking Julia, but Constance pressures him and convinces him that he must go with her. Meanwhile, Daniel hears from Anna the story of the many missing children and admits that indeed there were children at the base who suddenly disappeared, and he doesn't know anything about them. Hiroshi enters with Julia, and Daniel asks the guards to take Julia to a safe place. Hiroshi gives her a box before leaving. Once alone, she opens the box and looks at what's inside. As soon as Alan finds her, she runs to him, feeling safe. He notices her silver eyes. Over the days, the infected start breaking through the ceiling and entering through the ventilation shafts, spying on them from everywhere. Julia asks Alan and Sarah to take a blood sample from her and run tests. Suddenly, the alarm goes off, and Alan goes out to stand with Daniel, helping him to find an infected person who killed some soldiers and escaped through the corridors. They think he came here on purpose to contaminate their food. Sarah takes Julia's blood sample and notices that Julia is sensitive to light. Julia asks her to keep this a secret between them. Daniel gives Anna an official uniform so she can appear as an employee with them. She checks on Sergei and helps him treat his wound, asking him to help her find the records of the missing children. When he refuses and treats her badly, she leaves him. He finds a small tool by chance that he can use to free his hand and escape. Anna goes out to talk to Daniel, says goodbye, and gives him the photo she has to keep. Constance enters to see Julia, holds her face, and examines almost every part of her body. When Alan arrives, the guards refuse to let him into Julia's room. As soon as Constance leaves, she tells him that Julia now belongs to the company to find a cure for the disease in Julia's blood. Alan asks her to give him some chemicals to cause an explosion. At that moment, Julia hears the sounds of someone moving inside the ventilation shaft and decides to escape from there as well. As soon as the infected see her, they walk away, and none of them even thinks about attacking her. Julia reaches the lab, and Alan and Sarah ask her to save Hiroshi because he is the only one who can help them and get rid of Constance. Afterwards, Alan convinces Constance that they found a cure for the disease and asks her to see for herself. As soon as she approaches the microscope, she falls into his trap and the microscope explodes on her. They take advantage of this opportunity and quickly escape to another lab. Constance speaks over the loudspeakers and announces that she will kill Peter if Alan does not come and surrender himself to her. Sarah finds a sound gun in the room they're in and thinks of using it to distract Constance. When Alan leaves the base, he finds Sergei trying to steal her bike, so she attacks him and tries to stop him. They start fighting each other, and Sergei steals her weapon and stops her just in time, forcibly taking the keys from her. As soon as he sees guards coming, he quickly gives her the key and asks her to escape instead of getting caught with him. Julia reaches Hiroshi's place and tries to take him with her. When he tries to warn her again, Laos sees her, and she finds herself in a place with a photo of her and Hiroshi when he was still a young man. Suddenly, the guards come in and take her too. Alan surrenders himself to protect his brother. Constance takes Peter's cooling suit and orders the guards to kill Alan. Sarah uses the sound gun she has, causing the electricity to suddenly go out, injuring a large number of guards, and saves Alan from death. Sarah continues to shoot with the gun to finish off Constance and prevent her escape. At the same time, Hiroshi tries to take Alan and get out, taking some of the wounded and Peter's body with them, escaping through the ventilation shaft. Hiroshi goes to his office with Alan and Julia, and they're shocked when Julia suddenly disappears. Daniel talks to Constance and tells her that the electricity box had a sticky substance, meaning the infected were the ones who cut the power. He learns from a guard that Julia has been captured and that they will evacuate the place within an hour at most. Daniel goes to Hiroshi's office to inform him of this information, and Hiroshi asks Alan to save Julia by any means. The guards take Julia and put her inside the box. Hiroshi goes to talk to Constance and starts arguing with her about the past. We learn from their conversation that they were once in a relationship and loved each other very much, and that Julia is Hiroshi's daughter. Hiroshi attacks her, and they fight violently, and Hiroshi ends up killing her. He speaks over the loudspeaker and announces that Ilaria Corporation no longer has any control over the organization and its contents. Alan and Sarah go to save Julia from the box, and Daniel and his team capture all the men. Afterwards, Alan tells Hiroshi that he will never forgive him for kidnapping him and keeping him away from his family. A few days later, an infected man attacks Sarah as she walks down the corridor, so she quickly hides behind a large metal door and tries to protect herself. Some guards arrive and help her, and we understand that she was just bait, so they could catch all the infected wandering the halls. They're surprised that a large number of infected are completely missing. Daniel explains that there's another level called Level X, and the infected must be hiding there. They all return to the office to talk, and Hiroshi admits that he created the virus and called it the Apocalypse virus. He swears he has nothing to do with it and that the company developed the virus to this level to use it for itself. He is certain the company will not let what happened go and will send an entire army after them. When Julia asks him about the photo, he says he was a friend of her mother's and spent a lot of time with them, which is why he is in the photo with them. Daniel accesses the level 10 camera and confirms that the rest of the infected are really there. They give the sticky substance to Peter to drink. One of the guards is locked up with Sergei and learns from him that some guards went out to burn Anana's village. Later, Victor explains to Alan that he has a device that can put any infected person to sleep at 40 degrees. But the only problem is that there is no gas enough for a whole floor. Alan thinks they can use the Arctic in their plan. Hiroshi cuts off the power to the whole place, and Daniel distributes thermal blankets to all the staff. Sergei manages to escape at that time. The guard who was locked up with him also tries to escape, but Sergei beats him up, steals his stuff, and leaves. Alan and Julia go down to level 10 and confirm that all the infected are now frozen. They move quietly among them and reach the room with the virus samples, collecting everything the company could benefit from to destroy it. They notice that Narvik is not there. Sarah starts having a seizure, so Hiroshi has to quickly turn the power back on to help her. Of course, all the infected wake up again. Alan tries to escape quickly, taking advantage of the fact that the infected can't move well yet. He reaches the exit quickly with Julia and closes the door behind them. Julia notices her name engraved next to the door as she's climbing the stairs and convinces Alan to go down there to see what's below. She is shocked to find an exact replica of the cabin she used to visit with her mother. When they come back up, they discover that Peter has opened the door and is gathering all the infected. Julia stands in front of him to protect Alan, keeping the infected away from him with her eyes until she escapes with him upstairs again. At the same time, Daniel finds the guard dead and rushes to catch Sergei before he escapes. When Sergei tells him what will happen in the village, Daniel agrees to help him, and they take snowmobiles to catch up. Anana finds them halfway and takes them to her house. As soon as they arrive, they see company guards gathering all the villagers to burn and get rid of them. They beat up Tulok afterwards to pay him back for the blow he gave them earlier. Sergei assures them that the company will send more guards and won't rest until they're all gone, advising all the villagers to escape as soon as possible. They accidentally discover that a guard is still alive and escaped from them. Daniel decides to look for him before informing the company about what happened. Meanwhile, Hiroshi tells Alan and Julia about Sarah's illness. Alan goes with Sarah to the clinic, and Julia asks Hiroshi to explain why he's trying to protect her. Hiroshi shows her the rest of the photo and tells her that her mother is Jay, and her real name is Jane. He says the cabin below is where she used to live, and that she was in the facility the whole time. He removes the lenses from his eyes and tells her that he is her father. She is even more shocked when she finds out he was the one kidnapping the village children. Even when he says he was giving them to families who couldn't have children, she doesn't believe him and asks why their eyes are silver. When he refuses to answer, she leaves him. At that moment, Victor finds the Narvik sample they've been looking for. The next day, they examine Sarah's tumor to start treatment, and she starts seeing louse too. Alan explains to her that the tumor has spread to her brain. At the same time, Hiroshi sees footage of Victor leaving the facility with the serum sample and thinks he will surely die outside from the cold. But Alan and Julia learn from the map that there is an abandoned base very close to them and that he will surely hide there. They think they might find a radio at that base to communicate and ask for help. So they take a car and head toward the base. And as soon as they arrive, they actually find Victor there trying to contact the company. He attacks them and tries to escape. And a battle breaks out between them until Alan overpowers him and throws him out the window in the end. Alan then tries to fix the radio to use it, and suddenly a laser beam appears near them and Victor gets shot. The two of them quickly run to hide and hear someone shooting at them, threatening them to forcefully take the serum. When they find the radio destroyed, they try to escape through an opening next to the door, go down through it, and find a strange-looking man whose eyes are also silver. He explains to them that Constance forced him to cooperate with them and that Hiroshi imprisoned him here 30 years ago. He confirms that there are only 500 people with silver eyes and that they can live forever. When they hear the gunfire getting closer, they quickly hide the bag. Julia insists on taking the man with them, but he refuses, takes the weapon from her, and kills himself to end his suffering. In the end, they are captured, and the man threatens to kill them if he doesn't get the virus from them. Daniel arrives just in time, kills him, and saves their lives. He explains everything that happened in the village. After that, they burn the base with everything in it, and Julia throws the bag containing the virus into the fire to get rid of it. At the same time, Sarah records a video explaining everything that happened to her and the research she did on Julia's genes. She discovers that Julia has reverted to the same stage as newborn children and decides to make a new serum and test it on her own illness. She goes into a strange seizure as soon as she starts the test. When they return, Hiroshi explains that he had to put Sarah into a coma because of the seizures she was having. Julia asks him about the prisoner, and he tells her that this man gave her mother's gene to Constance and did this to him for revenge. He explains that the other 500 run the Ilaria Corporation and that he had been lying all along to protect his daughter from them. Suddenly, Sarah becomes very ill, and everyone tries to help her. We then discover that Julia took the virus and hid it in a headband behind their backs. The next day, Hiroshi sees a message on Constance's phone that the extermination team will arrive at the organization within 6 hours. He quickly takes the bombs he had hidden in his office and starts planting them everywhere around the base. Since the infected are afraid of him, he can easily plant bombs around them as well. Julia transfers some of her blood to the sample and is shocked to find that her wound has started to heal. Dusan tells Alan and Julia that the infected are suddenly disappearing, that something strange is happening, and no one notices that the infected are sneaking in and making employees disappear, and also setting traps for them. This means their intelligence is evolving, and they are thinking better than humans. After that, Hiroshi tells Alan that the army is coming and that they will wipe out the place with everyone in it. He plans to lure them inside and blow up the building with them and the infected. He asks them to gather everyone who hasn't turned yet and hide them all in the bunker. At the same time, many employees get infected with the black substance and start turning as well. Julia does some experiments on Narvik and starts developing it, hoping to reach a new result. When Alan discovers what she's doing, he argues with her and blames her for keeping the serum. Over time, Sarah wakes up and gets much better. telling them she has a very good idea. Peter collects all the sticky substance and, with his companions, puts it in the spraying device, turns it on, and covers everyone around him with it to infect them. Alan is shocked when he enters the bunker and finds them all dead. Hiroshi and Daniel realize that they have to blow up everything. Alan argues with them, saying he needs the new serum to cure as many of the transformed as possible. As the argument escalates, Julia asks them to calm down and starts telling them about her and Sarah's plan. She says that if they freeze the infected again, it will slow down the virus's effect, making them easier to cure. Daniel shows them a super chemical spray and says it can withstand the coolant and be used easily. They begin the mission, and the first one to be frozen is Peter, who is quickly injected with the cure. He goes into a strange fit, and all the black liquid comes out of his body. As soon as the infected see what's happening, they attack, but Hiroshi and Julia manage to save and cure as many as possible. Unfortunately, some of the transformed escape into the ventilation shafts. Many cars and drones arrive, and they realize they are unmanned and loaded with bombs. One explodes in Daniel's face, but Hiroshi saves him just in time. Suddenly, 3 soldiers parachute down from the sky and enter the base unnoticed. They all go to hide in the cabin under the facility. Hiroshi tells them he must blow up all the bombs as soon as possible, and explains that one of the soldiers, named Scythe, is a professional killer whom no one can escape. Scythe and his guards take the elevator, pretending to rescue the people in the bunker, but unfortunately, he kills them all. Suddenly, Sarah feels severe pain, and her eyes turn silver too. Daniel is shocked when he tries to detonate the explosives and finds they have been disabled, realizing that Scythe's guards did it. Scythe contacts the directors, who ask him to get the virus and its cure at any cost. They also insist he bring Hiroshi alive and eliminate anyone else in the organization. The men leave the cabin to see who is still alive. Alan is shocked when he sees on the camera that the leader is very old but looks young, because his eyes are silver. Scythe also watches them on the cameras and locates them. One of his guards notices something moving inside the box. Scythe becomes furious when he learns that Constance, his mother, is dead. He listens to Alan and Hiroshi's entire plan because they have the loudspeakers on, not realizing it's just a trap. Hiroshi and Alan go outside to distract them. Scythe and his guards surround them. Hiroshi throws the box he's holding onto the ice, causing it to crack and most of the guards to fall in. When they turn around, they are shocked to find that Scythe has completely disappeared. We see him return to the base and discover that Hiroshi has a daughter. He asks his assistant to find out everything about this girl as quickly as possible. At that time, Alan returns to the cabin but suddenly freezes because the power goes out. Within a few minutes, the power returns, and he is shocked that Julia is gone and the elevator shaft is open. He realizes that Scythe must have kidnapped her. They return to the cabin and find a box with Julia's finger and a note from Scythe asking them to hand over Hiroshi in exchange for her, if they want to save her. They all come up with a plan together, agreeing that Alan and Daniel will enter through the ventilation shafts. And Hiroshi activated the gas himself and struck them with a decisive blow. Daniel goes to see Scythe and talks to him, but unfortunately, Hiroshi ignores the entire plan and goes to turn himself in to save his daughter. Scythe shocks him and tells him that he has placed bombs around Julia and Daniel and asks him to choose one of them to save. When Daniel feels there is no other solution, he sacrifices himself so as not to put Hiroshi in a difficult position, detonates himself with his own hand, and dies in the end. Out of sheer anger, Hiroshi attacks Scythe, beats him, and takes the control device to save his daughter. Then, an image of Billy appears on the screen as she opens the box, and we discover that Jean is locked inside it. At the same time, Sergei helps all the surviving villagers move to a safe place to live. Toluk feels that he is a dangerous man and fights with him to make him leave them alone. Anana is very upset when she finds out what he did and pressures him to search for Sergei with her, and they return with difficulty. The next day, Hiroshi explains to Julia that he did all this because they threatened him with Jean's death. Alan pressures Scythe to talk, so Scythe asks them to watch the news first. They are shocked to see that a disease has spread all over the world called Puerto Rico, which is the same disease the villagers call the Black Blood. Alan thinks Sergei is the one who transmitted the disease outside. At that moment, Sergei faints in the snow from exhaustion, and Billy finds out she is also infected with the disease and decides to look for Sergei to help her and save Scythe. Alan and his group decide to do everything they can to contain the disease and treat people. They search for Billy's location. Sergei arrives, steals Billy's weapon, hits her, and escapes. He allows Julia to check on her mother and assures them that he no longer works for the company. He kills Billy in front of their eyes, so they believe him, and tells them he will give them the virus and the cure if they give him the list of all the children they kidnapped. Hiroshi assures him that he remembers all their names and asks him to write them down in front of him. As soon as Sergei gets the full list of names, he leaves the base and gives them the vials he has. At that moment, Peter enters to free Scythe, and we understand that he is the one who spread the disease to the whole world and that Scythe has been working for him all along. He gives him the detonator and asks him to blow it up and escape, so they think he was forced to do it. Sergei goes outside and sees some cars approaching. He discovers it's Anana and her brother. He takes them inside the facility. Tolok tries to attack Hiroshi, but Anana stops him and offers them her bike in exchange for evacuating the base, not knowing that, unfortunately, Daniel is already dead. At the same time, Alan discovers what happened to Peter and tells him that Scythe detonated and escaped. They start evacuating the place very quickly before it explodes. Alan gives Julia all the vials he has and activates the explosives before leaving after them. The facility explodes with everyone inside, and Alan saves himself at the last moment. He discovers Scythe has kidnapped Julia, and when Jean tries to save her daughter, he kills her too. He takes Julia, boards his plane, and ties her up so she can't move at all. Alan ties himself to the plane before it takes off, and before Scythe attacks him, Julia gives Alan the vials she has and throws them away from the plane so he can escape with them. A few months later, Alan secretly meets Peter and tells him he finally found Julia. They learn that she is responsible for the Silver Eyes Council in the company. And here, our second part ends. Stay tuned for new videos and summaries. Goodbye.